Okay, welcome to the Bee Life. I'm always doing projects, and this is the next one. The sink edge here, there's a bit of a gap where, I can see through there, which means I can tell that water's going to get through there, which means every time I've been showering, I've been leaking a little bit of water probably down up underneath the sink itself. Plus which, this has to be one of the least cool bits on the van. This feels like it's, out of a camper from the 70s. Design probably hasn't changed since then. So we're going to replace this faucet. We're going to reseal the sink. I could just inject a bunch of caulk underneath the lip here, and it probably would mostly work. But I want to actually take this up and readjust the piping and seat it down with fresh caulk. You can kind of see, I guess I'll have to show you what I'm talking about. You can kind of see underneath here, there's a little bit of a white lip. That looks like it was some kind of caulk sticky thing. But the problem is that the sink won't go down and stay down. It keeps gapping up. I can pull it up, I can push it down, but it won't stay down. So that just needs to be redone. Simple as that. And I want to change the faucet out. We're going to do the Marlin faucet mod. Okay, so there are screws up underneath this foam gasket, and there's some caulk around the edge as well. The caulk should come off probably fairly easily once the screws are removed. So let's get at the foam here. Of course, is simply to seal the door so it doesn't leak into. And from what I've seen of other people doing this same mod, it's easy enough to put fresh foam in. So really all I got to do is find where the screws are. There's a screw. Back the screws out. Will it pull off? Oh yeah, it's going to pull off. And there you go. So that's the cover. And then there's another piece inside that serves as the, oh, look at that, paperwork. Compartment storage soft white. BU259G, which would be the actual full model number of a 59G. Apparently this was put in on a Monday. Interesting. Alright, so now we can see inside. And you can see the plumbing fittings. Let me borrow this. So there's the fittings. Looks like standard faucet fittings. and that's pretty standard as well. And I can see all kinds of metal, which is an opportunity to insulate. So there you have it. We have a project. Okay, so this is the DE-002 faucet. It's got the flex hose attachment for the faucet handle here. Now this doesn't have a shutoff, so the likelihood is that I won't be using this as the shower faucet. Then again, since the faucet is a shutoff, maybe I don't need the faucet, the shutoff actually on the handle. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to experiment with what we use there. We've got a manual which shows you the parts. Actually, you have some different models as well as this one. Gives you the specs. So got the input connectors. This is when I want to see if it's going to work with the fittings that are already there, if I'm going to change them out. This appears to be a pressure valve. Yeah, it's like a constant pressure. It's a pressure reducer, I think. That fits in there. So it comes with that built in, and it's got this other end that'll go up into the faucet body itself. So set those aside. Got the mounting flange. So this is going to be the fun part of widening the hole that's there so that fits. And we've got an attachment piece which looks to be almost exactly like what's already on the wall to hold the faucet in place. And then the faucet itself. It's got bubble pack, and then foam pack, and then this lovely little cloth bag. Keep it shiny, I guess. That's not a bad little bag. And there you have it. So you got your temperature adjustment here. And then diverter and the actual nozzle of the faucet. And oh, that rotates around too. So you can put the diverter valve on the other side. That's nice. And then of course the volume or on-off control. And there's the two inlets for that. That looks like they screw in. So this will screw in. And I wonder if it tells me anywhere which side is the hot and which side is the cold. Maybe with the knob on the right side, the cold's on the right side, it looks like. Yeah, I wouldn't be willing to take a bet on that. But, well, we'll hook it up, and if it's wrong, we'll switch them. Since they're the same fitting, it won't matter. So there you have it. There's parts, unboxing. And we're going to get this thing set up and working. All right, is that rolling? Oh yeah, that's rolling. Okay, so first things first is I should go ahead. I've already opened up the faucets, I have the pump off, and also drained some water elsewhere, so I shouldn't have too much water dribbling around as we disconnect these here. And that wrench isn't big enough. Alright, pause it and get the right. Alright, got the right tool. And that'll fit. And that should come off real easily. There we go. Yep. Oh. Rubber bushing. Don't lose those. And see, forgot about that. I had previously used a little bit of a plastic strap here underneath the screw to keep the cable from flopping around. So we'll take this out of the way for now. Good. And I can always put that back in later. Get this out of the way. Alright. Now I've taken off everything. I mean, I can take this off, but it won't help any. I've taken off everything I think I can from the top side on this faucet. So the next part is to disconnect the water line and unscrew the faucet and pull it up, and then we can get on it and drill it. Alright, so we'll go ahead and disconnect the feed lines here. The first thing I want to do actually is see, does this fit the new faucet connector? And no, because they're both the same gender. Well, I need a nipple to go in there. Interesting. Alright, well this is going to take a trip to the hardware store. And there's no sense in changing this. I mean, I was thinking that this was like 3/8 PEX, but it's not. It's actually just a standard faucet connection pipe. So, and the other end is back in here, and it's got another one of these nuts on it. Tending to think that I'd be just as happy to leave these the way they are. So we'll take a trip to the store to get the right part. I think that's the same connection as this is. Does that screw on there? Yeah. So all I need is a 1/2 inch on both ends piece, and it'll be fine. Go ahead and pull the other end off. Okay. A few dribbles of water there, but not bad. And these are conveniently labeled with the hot and cold color coding. So that's handy. We get those tucked out of the way for the next step. Actually, I wouldn't need to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and disconnect just so it's out of my way while I'm working on this and I don't accidentally drill into it or anything. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the drain line from the sink basin, and there we go. Take this out and pop that in the kitchen sink. It's got some water trapped in it because it's a trap. And yeah, the whole sink is kind of loose. We'll pull that out, and oh, you know, that's actually a problem. You can't see what I'm doing. So that's loose, but it's not going to come out with this in the way. So in order to reseal this, I would have to take the faucet out anyway. So it's a good thing we're changing the faucet. I'm much happier with the new faucet setup. All right, now we got to take these nuts off. So that was relatively easy. Whoa, shoot. I lost the nut. I'll find it later, but I don't need it. Other than I like to not have spare parts rattling around. Alright, come on. How many times I gotta turn on you? And of course I dropped that one too. Alright. So let's show you what's on here. So that comes right off. Not hard. And man, is that ugly dirty. And now I have the opportunity to take the sink basin out. At least I think I can. What's holding it in there? Oh, there's some screws holding it in there. Okay, well, we'll have to take those out too. Lovely. Can't even see what I'm doing here. Oh, I see. It's a little flange attached to the sink, which you actually have to bend out of the way, which means there's one on the other side too. There's several. There's three. Okay. Well, this is all kinds of no fun. Two. And of course you can't see anything I'm doing here. I'm going to get that unscrewed and then I'll turn it back on. Okay, I got the last screw up. I had to use vice grips to do it. And then the oops, one flange, two flange, and then the third flange was there, supposed to be, and the weld popped off. But my real concern with these is that even when they were bent up and a screw through them, there was a huge gap between the screw head and the flange here, as if they were worried about putting the screw through the wood, which is fairly thin actually. So they had too long of a screw. They didn't want to put it in all the way, and thus this wasn't holding the sink down properly. I think we're going to fix that simply by gluing it down into place. So I think these flanges, I'm just going to bend those back down against the sink, and then hangs. And then we'll put it back in and simply glue it down. Maybe I'll put a screw through one of the flanges. I don't know. If the glue isn't, if the caulk rather isn't holding it, then it's just not going to be held properly. No, it's not going to be in the right position. We'll see. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work yet. So I'm going to hand this over to Crystal and let her clean it up. And then we'll get started on drilling the new hole for the new faucet, because where did that brass fitting go? There it is. Because this bigger than that hole. Kind of slide off. So. Okay, and we're rolling. So, I've come back from the hardware store with some 1/2-inch nipples, and that's always fun to see, and a hole saw to match the piece I need to put in. The first thing that I want to do is get the it's all wet. First thing I want to do is get this cleaned up. Got some simple green. Oh, turn it on. And get this scrubbed down so that the parts that are going to be exposed now don't look ugly. A whole lot better. Okay. Next is you need to drill out the hole so that this fits through it. Now we're going to go through some wood. There's some wood underneath here as well. Which, oh, that's interesting. The whole thing moves. Some more of the caulking strip that wasn't cutting it. Huh. So I may want to, and the whole wood frame is moving here. I'm probably going to want to put some screws in it at some point later. I wonder if that was part of why my sink wasn't set right. I'll worry about that later. Alright, let's see. I've got my baggie of fresh parts. Arbor. And I picked out a 1 3/8 bit, which looks like it's the right thing. I'm not holding it where you can see it. Shoot. There we go. So 1 3/8 that appears to be the right size. So I'll drill it out. The 1 1/4 was just too small. It was actual size of this, which meant that the threads would catch a bit. So I went up a size. And so what I'm going to do is find my wood. I've got some scrap wood here, and put that underneath, and I'll drill through to hold it in place while I put the new hole where I want it. Alright, and I've got my screw going through to a scrap piece underneath. So now I can set my center hole position, which wants to be right there. pretty much dead square in the center of the existing hole. So now we add the hole saw to the arbor. There we go. Packaging off. There it goes. Locked in, and oh, that bit's only just barely sticking up past the double check, make sure I'm still in the right place. Yep. And of course, if I have to, I have an AC drill I can switch to. Which is the case. Lovely. Through the plastic just fine, and I'm going to get through the wood underneath. I think I should resort to using the plastic as a guide, maybe. And there you go. All right. So now this fits. Yes. And now what we can do is start threading things together. And the first thing is that the inlets need to get screwed into the faucet. There it goes. Then this goes over one, and then, oh, no it doesn't. this. And like that. It's got to go over both of the mini screw men. Okay. That threads into our faucet. And when this goes through over time, and we bolt it down. And I wonder, I was planning on putting a soap dispenser there. I kind of wonder if that's going to interact badly. If that's going to be there, I think it'll hit. I think I shall need to go back to the store and get a different soap dispenser that doesn't have as much height, because that's definitely going to hit for where I want it. I want that to be accessible, and I want this to be square to the back wall, which means my soap dispenser needs to be really shallow. It's either that or I have to build up with a ring underneath here. I can't even go very far, so it's not really a good idea. Yeah, I think I need to find a different soap dispenser. Alright. But that doesn't prevent me from finishing this up and getting the... Alright, now I have skipped a step, which is actually very important, which is the ring that goes underneath keeps your water from spilling out onto the if the water spills out onto the counter, keeps it from running through. So that fits in the notch there. And then this larger gasket's going to go down right like that, which makes a nice watertight seal. Then put the nut on. Oh, criminy. I've got the same problem. Just got to back all these out. Which means put it on here. No, that's not right. Put it on this one first. Oops. And then put it through, which locks the nut into place. Okay. All right, so what's left is to tighten this brass nut. Let's see, not straight. Go. Still crooked somehow. Can't be. Oh, I know what's happening. It's yeah. I've got the brass thing in the wrong end. I gotta undo and redo the whole thing. Lovely. There's a little bit of a difference in thread part way up, and that needed to go into this end. So it's no big deal other than I have to take the whole thing apart. These two come off. This comes off and goes the other way around. There's a ridge in the threading where it's not consistent. The nut won't go over that. So this end has to go into the faucet. And then these two. And then this gets attached. Oh, it actually has it labeled here. It tells you which side is which. Cold's on that side, hot's on that side. Well, that's good to know. So now I'll be able to tell. I'll be able to get it right the first time without having to redo it. That's actually pretty well on there, to be honest. I mean, I'm going to need to reinforce up underneath here with some extra wood to keep the whole thing from moving about too much. But that's a separate issue I can resolve later. Now we need to connect the fittings. So if I take the, which side was it now? Oh, no. Actually, I've got the whole thing backwards. Dang it. Yep. That fails. Okay, that'll work. It's hot pipe is on this end, so this is going to be hot. So if I bring up the original hot connection, here's where I need the nipple. So, a 1/2-inch nipple. And they come in these Ziploc bags like you're going to reuse it. And that should fit tight around that piece of the connection. Let me double check that it will. Yeah, so it's fitting right up against the... Probably wouldn't hurt to have an O-ring. Let's see if I happen to have them left over from before. Pretty sure this is the right one, the number 11. Oh yeah, that's the one. Number 11 O-ring. Fix the problem I had previously with the new faucet in the kitchen sink. Oh yeah, I can feel it tightening down nicely. Alright, and then the new faucet came. Where is it? Oh, right here. The new faucet came with its own little filter screen washer. So we're going to put that in its input. And this is the hot. Yep, so we're going to connect the hot to the hot. So that goes in there. And then, actually it'll be easier if I connect it to here first. Yeah, I can see that that's seated down on the ring. And then thread this onto here. Alright, and we'll tuck this away and bring up the other connection. Alright, so this is kind of sort of set up. I need to go get the sink and put it back in so I can turn the water on and test it. Alright, I've got the sink back in, and since I'm not really sure which way the diverter valve is going to go, I need to put something on that to keep it from splattering me. I'm going to turn the water on. And I figure I might as well give it a go with the new shower head, just in case I end up actually liking it. You never know how these things work. Looks like that's going to be the shower head side. This needs to go here. And this needs to come off the nut. There we go. That goes there. And then that comes off. This little washer. Where'd it go? There it is. And the washer goes in here. And this shower head there we go. And we'll just see how that works. I mean, it fits in the existing thing, so we'll see. this in. And I think that's off. So let me close the kitchen faucet and turn on the water pump and check the leaks. And we're spraying. Yep. And we're spraying water down here. Lovely. Apparently just the hot water side sprung a leak for some unknown reason. So this one sprung a leak. So we're going to tighten that up. You see the wrench. Okay, that's quite a bit tighter than it was a minute ago. So let's turn the water on and see what happens. Oh no! Okay, and it's definitely coming out this fitting here. That is definitely where the problem is today. Okay, so got the faucet installed. I've managed to get it to stop leaking, and the answer to it not leaking was actually to remove the pressure regulator fittings. Apparently they are using a different thread, different threads per inch, such that the brass pipe nipple wouldn't actually turn in all the way, thus wouldn't hit the seal, thus was spraying all over the place. That's why it was water spraying out of the threads. I'm going to operate, for the time being anyway, with the assumption that I don't really need these pressure regulators, because the water pressure in the van is not only not inconsistent, I mean, it's all kinds of inconsistent if you look at the pump kicking in and out, but it's not inconsistent in the form of I've got somebody else, in the house using water on and off that I need to correct for that. So, and it's also a lower pressure, so I'm not worried about it being a high pressure causing problems with the faucet. So we're just going to leave those out. It makes the job of installing actually insanely easy, because all you do is add, here, let me show you what I'm talking about here. Because all you have to do is take the blue and red fittings off of the old faucet that they were on. Get these brass half-inch nipples and attach, minus the extra piece, attach the connection to the faucet. Now, one other thing that I did have to do when I first turned this on with a hot water heater on and everything, when I first turned this on and tested it, I was having all kinds of trouble getting it to produce hot and cold temperature water as I would expect it to. And I double checked that the cold and the hot were matching the labeled connections, saying which side is hot and which side is cold. I was double checking to make sure that that was matching on the faucet, and even though it was matching, what I was noticing is that the knob was turning the wrong way. If I turned it all the way to one end, I'd get hot water. turn it all the way to the other end, I'd get cold water, but they were backwards from the increasing degrees on, even though it's centigrade, on the faucet. So I flipped the connection, so just swapped hot and cold, and sure enough, boom, it works perfectly. So there you have it. One lovely faucet with the diverter, and the diverter works nice. Water comes on. It's hot. I turn it down to a lower number, towards 20, and it gets nice and chilly. Turn it back to the stop at 38, and it's a nice. I can check. Okay, that's wrong. So for the next step, I'm going to take the bowl and seal it down really good. I'm using kitchen and bath adhesive sealant. So it's both a caulk and an adhesive. It's an adhesive caulk. Basically, the process is going to be completely coat the under the rim here. Stick it down. I'm not going to mess with the flanges because although they would ostensibly hold it in place, they'll also have a tendency to pull up as you put the screw in, to pull up on the bowl and try to unseat the sealant. So I'm going to skip those and trust that the sealant is going to stick it down. Adhesive sealant is going to stick it down well enough that I won't have to revisit this. Now, what I am also going to do, though, before I put the bowl in, is put a little bead around the plastic and the wood, just because I don't want anything that might leak a little bit to get into the wood and rot the wood away. So we're going to open this up. And see what it looks like. Oh yeah, that'll work. All right, we'll clean up and see that's working. And I also cut a piece of plastic that I'm going to at least temporarily put over the hole where the other faucet part of the faucet was, and I can easily pry this up at a later time if I find an appropriate low profile soap dispenser. But in the meantime, I just can't have shower water getting down. And I should. Okay, so I've got the excess adhesive caulk cleaned up from around the edge. That looks a lot better. I've got the cover plate in place. Faucet works